Hey there, friends. Things are finally slowing down a little bit as far as a trickle of information coming and going in the Trump assassination attempt. However, things are still coming out. I think a lot of what's coming out is a product of people like you guys and myself who are asking questions that, let's face it, the government won't ask, politicians won't ask, people in charge won't ask. They're perfectly okay with sweeping this thing aside and moving on with something else, whatever the next flavor of the day is. We've kept this thing alive by making these people ask questions. That's why you have people like Senator Chuck Grassley who are finally asking questions. Chuck Grassley has demanded that this video be released, and I got this from Sky News, but the first place I got this, I do want to tell you all, breaking this yesterday as far as this additional body cam footage came from Mike over at Mr. Guns and Gear. I just want to give him a hat tip because I see a lot of stuff come from Mike first. He may not do actual reporting on it, but he is certainly releasing the video files, the raw data and things like that first. So if you want to get like a first-hand look at that, go check Mike out. He's on other social media platforms, obviously, besides YouTube. But this video right here is the extended version that Chuck Grassley demanded come out. It does show whenever these law enforcement officers get on top of the roof where Crooks is found, they originally count out 5 rounds. Now, you will remember the video that I put out a week or so ago with the guest that I had, we'll call him John. He was discussing where an additional shooter had to have come from based on his analysis. He was an engineer and he's describing that. I took that information along with a couple of other guys who I've mentioned, Mike Adams and Chris Mortensen. I took their information, coupled it with what I had found to determine that there must have been more than one shooter, right? And we actually determined that out of the 8 shots that were originally claimed to come from Crooks, that 5 of them came from somebody else and 3 of them came from somebody else. We don't know who shot which group, but we had determined that there had to have been at least 2 firearms, possibly 3, minus the sniper who took Crooks out. I want you to see this video where they count out the 5 rounds first, or at least state that there are 5 rounds on the roof next to Crooks.
Watch out for shell casings.
2, 3, 4, 5 right there.
Limit who comes up here. No more guys up here.
Now you'll notice he just counted the vicinity of Crooks just to his right, where we actually talked about those spent casings would have likely gone. In fairness, they weren't looking beyond the peak of that particular roof. Crooks is aiming, if he's aiming at Trump, he's aiming south. They didn't look at the south side of that peak. They only counted on the north side where Crooks was lying. So I'm giving these people the benefit of the doubt, but make no mistake, the counts that we're talking about was 3 and 5 combined, making 8 obviously, but 3 and 5. The main thing that we had looked at was there seemed to be a distinct difference in these sound signatures. Now, so many things come into play. Metal buildings, people, trees, the weather, whether a firearm is inside a building, outside a building. And we had determined that based on the open window that we discovered last week, that we assumed some rounds came out of there. Now, based on this video right here, you would assume that the 5 came from Crooks and the other three possibly came from inside the building, which we've had no reports of anyone doing any kind of forensics of potential gunpowder being fired from inside that room. I've not heard of anything. But nevertheless, if you watch the rest of the video, again, this is a Sky News video, but I originally saw it from Mr. Guns and Gear. The video is 27 minutes long. So if you watch the whole thing, at the end of it, there's another round count.
About that, that's a rifle. It's got hair all over the place. Shells over here.
On both sides. Looks like what, at least 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least 8.
So note that now on the south side of that pitched roof of where that peak is, now they count 3 more. They still count the 5 next to Crooks, but to the further right and on the other side of that peak, now they've found 3 more. Now, I'm not saying that somebody planted them there. I know there's people who are going to say, oh, you're insinuating that. I'm not. I'm absolutely not. Hey, I wasn't there. It's possible all 8 of these rounds came from Crooks. But I think that the things that Mike Adams and Chris Mortensen have done to diagnose the sound, that's indisputable. If someone can explain that away, then I'm okay with it. No one has explained that away. From a forensic standpoint, you have audio that has a distinct signature, and there's math and algebra tied to that tell a distinct story. So if you found 8 rounds on that roof, great. Now can you explain to us, because we all have questions, why these other things that are not doctored, these came out immediately. Not saying you could immediately doctor them, but you hear what I'm saying. Now, can you explain that to us? Because I feel like if you could, then I would be more okay with it. Now, that doesn't explain away all the other craziness out there as far as things that simply don't add up. Like, how does a 20-year-old do what he did and is completely invisible to everybody? How does a 20-year-old have all these different phone conversations, or phones rather, of either himself or associates that are tracked? The phones themselves are tracked to Washington, D.C., only a block away from the Secret Service office and a couple of blocks from the FBI and DOJ's office. The trip up to Massachusetts, a viewer has told me that some of those circles where he was, that's near an FBI building, also up there, only a block or so away. How do you describe that? How do you describe all of the other advanced things like making a bomb? I understand a lot of you have said anybody can make a bomb. I can't. I mean, I'm sure if I wanted to, I probably could find the ways to do it, but it would really be helpful if I had some help, if you know what I mean. There are so many things that they haven't answered about the vehicles either. And guess what? Now I have this. Remember they talked about how Crooks was a Republican, a registered Republican. Remember how they said that? That was something that came out like the first day, like day one. I don't think that the blood had coagulated on his face yet. And we had a report that he was a Republican. And boy, they were so proud to deliver that message. This guy's a Republican. So it's a right-wing extremist that tried to kill Trump, right? I explained in a way earlier video that whenever I registered early, like Crooks, I registered as a Democrat. Back in the day, I'm 56 years old. Back in the day, we had blue dog Democrats in the state of Louisiana that were not as crazy and rabid as these wackos on the far left now. None of these blue dog Democrats that existed back then vote with the Democrat Party anymore. Those were pretty much conservative-leaning Democrats. And Democrats mainly because the unions in the South were pretty strong back in the day. I'm not a Democrat now, and I'm not a registered Democrat. My point is, sometimes you follow your parents' lead. My parents were blue dog Democrats. But it also immediately came out that he had donated to a left-leaning group called Act Blue. And that was a donation that he made, $15 towards them. So let's be real clear here. I don't care what you're registered as. It's where you spend the money that you work for that makes you what you are. But since then, additional information has come out from Daily Mail. Headline: shocking social media posts of Trump shooter Thomas Crooks are revealed by social networking website's CEO. The CEO of the social networking website Gab has revealed posts that he claims may have been written by Donald Trump's would-be assassin Thomas Crooks. Andrew Torba said on Wednesday that an unnamed law enforcement agency informed him that Crooks may have posted pro-Biden messages on Gab, a platform known for its alt-right users and conspiratorial content. So they're trying to paint Gab as alt-right and conspiratorial. Anytime the media says something using the words alt-right and conspiratorial, they're trying to discredit it right off the bat. So this organization is immediately, the news media is immediately trying to say, hey, these guys aren't to be trusted. They are saying that emphatically these are posts from Crooks, but they're also trying to discredit the website Gab. And they go on to post actual posts from Crooks. Now they have redacted out whatever his handle or name was on the site, but you can just see he responded to Cat Turd. I don't know if that's the same Cat Turd that I follow on X, but he makes some excellent posts on there. It likely is. Didn't you also think Biden would lose in a landslide? Yeah, I would not be very confident in your election predictions. So he's pretty much mocking Cat Turd by saying that Trump had lost. Prior to that, on February 3rd, and this is the one that got me, that I really have question marks about. First of all, Biden executive orders don't incentivize human trafficking, as human traffickers aren't interested in citizenships. Likewise, the majority of illegal immigrants. Now, I'm going to stop real quick. I want you to listen to the words I'm using. Does this sound like a 20-year-old nutbag? Or does this sound like somebody who has an agenda and is trying to get framed, pictured information, stuff that can be parroted out there and used note for note? And more on that in a minute. Immigrants are not criminals, and in fact, some studies, such as the one linked below, show lower rates of crime committed by these individuals. It is also unclear if the extensive path to citizenship is in fact effective at rooting out potential bad actors, hence why there is a review of that system. Boy, that sounds really well written, minus the punctuation, of course. Sounds really well worded, coming from some nut job 20-year-old. He also cites a study comparing crime rates between undocumented immigrants, legal immigrants, and native-born U.S. citizens in Texas. You notice something that he does right here that is not common for liberals, left-leaning people. This is why I have question marks about who actually made these posts. Somebody definitely made these posts in 2021. There's no doubt about that. This was not going back and done. But somebody made these posts. The reason why this doesn't seem like a post that Crooks, if he was a left-leaning liberal, made, is because he does one thing that most liberals never ever do. They never cite sources. They never do that. It's usually name-calling and a bunch of silliness up there and stating that people are somehow Hitler and that some ways that they're tyrants and you're a fascist. They actually post a link. Now, I'm not saying that this is a legitimate link and that this website is legitimate either. It could be another wacko far left-leaning website. But he does post a reference which is really odd for the left-leaning folks out there. He goes on to post on other posts out there about percentages and actual numbers that he's apparently pulled. Now, this again sounds really like somebody either copied and pasted this somewhere, or it was a very well worded, at least professionally worded document as far as what he's pointing out. And tell me this doesn't sound like something a Karine Jean-Pierre would say from the podium. Actually, the executive order allows an easier path to U.S. citizenship, therefore no longer making them illegals and allowing children to join their already legalized immigrant parents in the U.S. That does not sound like what a 20-year-old would say. I don't care how smart, intelligent, or well-spoken this person is, most 22-year-olds who are flaming-headed liberals do not speak like this. Continuing in that same vein and starting to now look like, hey, I'm an anti-Trump guy. One of his other posts on February 3rd says, that's funny because the first order mandates a reuniting of any family separated at the border. The second and third orders, a review of Trump's immigration policies and other previous policies. However, his order doesn't actually open borders or reduce the authority of Border Patrol or anything that would substantially reduce BP effectiveness. So I'm sorry, but this guy is talking out of his ass. Again, he's defending Biden's policies. He's saying that Biden's policies don't open borders, which they did open borders, and saying they didn't reduce the authority of Border Patrol, which they did do. Again, sounds like it came from the podium of the White House press room. The last thing he says is, I'm sorry, explain to me how Trump was ever concerned with what the left wanted, or anybody in the GOP for that matter. That last phrase does not sound like somebody who is a rabid Republican, registered Republican, voting Republican, and certainly in defense of any of the Republican platforms out there. Now, it looks like all of these posts were done about the same time. Now, remember, this was a month after Biden took office, so not really sure why this was done like this, but it was certainly done in defense of Biden in many cases. The Daily Mail goes on to state that he posted on the site 9 times total. While the account made very few posts on the site, the majority of them were in support of President Biden. They went on to say, and this was the thing that also got me very odd, a number of posts in particular expressed support for President Biden's COVID lockdowns, border policies, and executive orders. These are the things that Biden has taken, except for maybe how horrible the economy is and inflation. These are the things that Biden has taken the most heat for. So it's very odd that this kid had the premonition early on to foresee all of these things that Biden was going to be doing, because again, this was 1 month after Biden took office. Friends, I hope you'll take this information and do what you guys are doing. You guys are sending me emails on the regular. I get lots of emails from you. You guys are providing me lots of really good information. Some I use, some I don't. Look, guys, Some of you email me back saying, hey, just checking to see if you got my email. I don't respond to a lot of them because I'm reading so many of them. If you don't get a response from me, don't assume I didn't get it. I'm getting your emails. If you think I didn't get it, just go back and read and make sure you sent it to the wrong email address that you can read down below. But I'm getting your emails. So don't always expect a response because I don't have the time to respond to every single one of them. I wish I could, but I absolutely can't. Please like, subscribe, share, keep the conversation going. This is good information. Going back to the beginning of this video, I was shocked when I saw the original video that showed these guys only counting out 5 of the rounds. But when I saw the end of the video a good 20 minutes later and they counted out 8, now I started to say, okay, I need to start looking at this again. I have a video that will come out either later today or tomorrow that I finally have pieced together enough information to show the trajectory of the shots, at least the ones coming from the building that Crooks was on. I've pieced all that together, and finally I feel confident enough with all the information that I have that now it will make sense and will actually show a picture of the trajectory of all of these rounds. So stay tuned for that. That will either be later today or tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's over.